Hey everyone, thanks for trying to learn to play games. My name is Lance, and in today's video we'll be playing through the very first mission in Role Player Adventures. This is a newer game by Thunderworks Games. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to play, and is a fully cooperative game where all the players are working together to complete whichever mission they've chosen to go on. So again, in this video I'm going to be playing through the very first mission and also teaching you some of the basic mechanics along the way. Now this isn't going to be a full teaching video, it is obviously more of a playthrough, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Let me know if you would like to see a full teaching video on this one, and also let me know if you're excited about the brand new Kickstarter campaign that is currently going on. They are actually funded already. They funded in just over 2 hours and are doing really well. So let me know what you think on that, and if you've had a chance to get this one to the table, what your thoughts are on this one as well. So as always, if you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we can continue to grow, be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also give that notification bell a ring, and that'll let you know whenever I drop some new stuff. So let's go ahead to the table and we'll see how this one plays. Alright, so moving into the game, I've already handled setup for this one, which is a combination of a couple of different things. You're going to have the main part of setup outlined in the rulebook, telling you what you need out. And again, most of these decks are not going to be shuffled in this. You're simply going to place them out as each one of them is numbered. And so you're going to be pulling certain cards on there based on the numbers that you find in the book. You're also going to be using different characters, which are either going to be pre-constructed, which are going to be outlined in the setup for this particular game, or for those of you that have played Role Player and would like to incorporate characters from your games of Role Player, you can also do that, and that is also going to be outlined in the main rulebook. From there, then you're going to move into whichever mission you've chosen to play or whichever adventure you've chosen to play, and I'm going to go ahead and do the Battle of Black Lake. So with this one, at the beginning of each one of the adventures, it's going to outline any additional setup instructions for that, which I've already taken care of in this particular video, which is mainly just placing the experience out, placing out the 2 different points that I'm going to be using for this one, and I'll shuffle those up already and place those out, and then handling any of the other stuff that is listed on here. From there, then you're going to go ahead and read the adventure begins section to get you into the mood and set the narrative of what you're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and move into the adventure begins, and we'll see how this particular adventure starts. So as the King's Guard's soldier in a regiment of Commander Zelik, a dark elf, you have fought a long war. The Dargol, a coalition of northern tribes, invaded Narglis, your homeland. After many battles, you have driven off their hordes, but rumors spread through the camp of a new Dargol plot. One night you are summoned to Commander Zelik's tent, where you find him arguing over a map with General Grick, an orc. A gold coin marks the southern city of Selbik. A vial of elixir marks the swamp to the west. Commander Grick raises an eyebrow when you enter. So you're Zelik's best, he asks, looking over you skeptically. We have a special mission for you, but first a question of strategy. Zelik wants you to take a regiment south to investigate the threats to the capital, and Grick points to a coin. When pointing to a vial, we think you should push west and capture a powerful Dargol agent in the swamps. What say you? I can choose now at this point to either side with General Grick and learn more about the Dargol plots and begin on 1, or I can side with Commander Zelik and investigate threats to the capital. So I think with this one, I'm going to go ahead and side with General Grick, as I want to know more about these plots. So this is going to have me turn to part 1. And so this one says that I point to the elixir and General Grick laughs, patting you on the back. Yes, exactly, he says. Zelik nods. I'll leave you to it, he says, and he collects his coin and exits the tent. So from there, then I'm going to record the keyword Grick on my keyword section. So let me handle that. So keywords, I'm going to have Grick in there. And then from there, you can keep the vial, the general says to you, rolling up the map. You'll need it where you're going. Leave now and travel due east until you reach a small enemy encampment. A special operative of King Terran's will meet you there. You collect the elixir from the table and drink it down. With a nod, the general sends you forth. I gain 1 XP, so I'll get to gain an XP cube. And then you make haste under a crescent moon, crossing burnt and abandoned farmland in an open prairie. At the top of the bluff, you look out over a dark lake to a wooden outpost. Place your party marker at location A. All right. And then read entry A. So from there, then I'm going to move over to entry A, the Borland Prairie. So if there is no XP at this location, then I'm going to read A1. Otherwise, collect the XP at this location and continue reading. So there is XP there, so I'll go ahead and get that, and then I'll continue reading. So as you look out over the lake, your voice calls, or a voice calls from the thicket behind you. Care to join me? You turn to discover a friendly halfling roasting apples and hares by his fire. You look like you could use a meal. You disregard the halfling, and he chuckles, then stands to salute you. Tarek Nolan, special operative of King Terran, confidant of the immortal knight, and the bearer of bad news and terrible secrets. Now come, eat and rest, for we have hard work ahead of us. As you eat, Tarek speaks in hushed voice. The lake below is dark, for the Jorgul filled it with the blood and ashes of their dead. Our mission is to secure the outpost. The northern shore is guarded by an encampment of goblins, weak but many. The gnolls stand watch to the south. We need to eliminate both camps, so take your pick and go one way, and I'll go the other way. Burn down their camp to signal your progress, and I'll do the same. Tarek pulls something from his pack and tosses it to you. We'll need this at the gate. Okay, so from there, then I have discovered item card number 65. So I'll gain that out of the discovery deck. There we go. And I have a blue stone fireball. And then it gives you a reference on using items. So then it gives me an option. I can use an item if I want to, which right now all I have is the one item, or I can move to another location. So I think with this one, I'm going to go ahead and move. And so I have a choice now. I can start making my way up to the goblin camp, or I can make my way down to the null camp. So I think the goblins sound a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to make my way up that way. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and move into this path point here. And then I'll have to resolve that at the next step. So from there, then I'm going to go ahead and grab my book here for encounters. And open it up, and then I'll reveal this encounter, and it is encounter number 2. So I'm going to go adventure 1-2. All right, so by the faint light of the crescent moon, you make your way through a grove of ancient trees. You discover a thin line of twine running across your path and up to a tree where rusty pots and pans hang from the branches. The forest around you is laced with these tripwires. Any false move will alert the Jorgul of your presence. So from here, then I have a choice. I can choose to try to disarm the trap, which is basically letting me know that I'm going to be using Dex and Intelligence, which my Dex on both of my characters isn't too bad. My Intelligence is absolutely abysmal at 0 for both of them. Or I can choose to sneak through it, which again is going to use Dex and Wisdom this time, which is a little bit better. Each one of my characters has a little bit of each one of these. Obviously more on my one side than the other. So I think I'm going to go with that one. And so that's going to have me reading Adventure 1-6. So I'll go ahead and turn the page to that one. And so you do your best to creep your way past the many tripwires that the Jorgul have set up on the path to their encampment. So this one's going to have me making a skill check. So in order to handle this, I will go ahead and grab my skill book and turn to the stealth section, which is going to be in the back here. And then with the skill check, it is stealth 1. So I'm going to be using the top section on that I need to pass. And this is going to be looking for 3 dice to lock in here. All right, so at this point, this is my first opportunity to go over skill checks. So with this, our characters can choose to spend their cubes, placing them into the fatigue section to actually purchase dice from the bag of a color of my choice based on the skills that I use. So for example, if I wanted to gain a black die, I would spend Dex, and it's going to be based on the number of characters that are playing. So with me playing 2 characters, I must spend 2 Dex in order to purchase a black die. The same goes with any other die color I want, and each one of these is going to outline the color of the dice that I'm looking for, as well as the numbers on them. Now, some are going to vary depending upon the check you're making, but this particular one I'm looking for a black 2, a white 1, and either a black or a white 6. So those are going to be the two different dice that I'm going to be mainly working with here. And unfortunately, both of my characters on the side here, now you can have one character spend all of the requirements if you want to, as long as it doesn't fatigue them. And so my one character here has 1 dex and 1 wisdom, where the other character has 2 dex and 2 wisdom. So I think with this one, I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 from each of them, adding it over to the fatigue section. And so that'll meet the requirements to be able to purchase a black die. So I'll go ahead and pull 1 black die out of the bag. Next, I will also purchase 1 white die, and I'll go ahead and pull that out of the bag as well. And then for the final one, I can either choose to stop here, in which case then I'm going to draw another die from the bag at random, which could be any color, or I could choose to spend some more. Now, if I do not have a requirement for a thing that I need, so for this example, I have 1 dex and 1 wisdom left, so I would need 1 of either one depending upon what I choose. In order to make that up, I can also choose to spend other dice color or other cubes of other colors up to, or it's a 3-to-1 ratio. So I have to spend 3 different cubes. Again, any player can contribute towards this, or they can combine these to contribute towards it to equal 1 other color. So I could spend 1 dex from him, and I would need 1 additional dex. So in that situation, let's go ahead and say if I wanted to, I could spend 2 strength from the one guy and 1 strength from her to make up that second dex. But I think at this point, I'm going to just go ahead and do a random draw to determine that third die. And it's a purple. Okay, so we'll see how this works here. So from here, then you're going to roll this dice pool that you've generated. And let's hopefully, maybe we'll get some luck here. Well, I got a 6, so that's good. And I got a couple of high numbers for the rest of them too. So from there, then I can move into each one of the players getting to play cards from their hands. Now there is a maximum to this, which is going to be listed as your play limit. So each player in my game can play up to 2 cards from their hands. And then if I need to, I can also spend this bonus play token to allow one of the players to play 1 additional card. Each one of the players also has an ability that they can also choose to activate at this point if they want to. So with my warrior, hers is that I can return any amount of stamina from your strength attribute to roll attribute roll to the supply, and then I flip an equal number of dice in the dice pool to their opposite face. So that could be really helpful, especially since with the black 5, the opposite side is a 2, which is one of the numbers that I need. And actually the 4 isn't going to be, but that might be handy as well. So I think I will actually do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use this ability, and I can return any amount of stamina from your strength attribute to the supply. So I'm going to go ahead and return that straight to the supply, and that is going to simply allow me to flip over 1 die. And so that is going to be that one. And so right away I have my 2 of the black that I need, and now I need to convert, and I need a 1 as well. So let's see what kind of options I have. Now the Crusader does have the ability, I can spend that as well, that lets me re-roll white dice. So that might be one way of doing this. Let me see if I have anything else here that could potentially help me. So 1 or a 4, I could convert to any color, but I need white, so that's not going to potentially help me. This one here lets me decrease a red or a white die by 1 or 2, so I could take that down to a 3 or 2. Again, not quite enough to get me where I need to go. This one lets me change a white or blue. That's another reroll. Or I can do that. So let's go ahead and start off by playing the chainmail here. So that's going to go in the discard pile. That lets me reroll this one. Let me see if I can get something else that I need better. There we go. That's a 2. That's much better. Okay. So I think I will play the mace then. And that lets me decrease a red or a white die by 1 or 2. So I'm going to decrease it by 1. And that'll take care of that. And then that's the 2 that player can play. So I just need 1 that can change that color. So this one, Foolish, lets me change one die of any color to either blue or white. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that will go into his discard. And that is going to take this and turn it into a white die. So let's just go ahead and replace that so that you can see how that works. And that will complete that. So at this point, that is everything that I basically need to play. So that will end this particular skill check as I have met the requirements of it. And then I also filled up those slots. So I'm also going to receive 2 experience points for that. All right, so then I can close that off. And then go back here. So I did pass the test, so now I can sneak past the trap. I'm going to go to adventure 1-11, which is way up here. So with great skill and precision, you pass through the tripwires and head towards the Dargle camp, prepared to take them by surprise. You hope that the rogue is having as much luck on his side of the lake. From here, then I'm going to record the keyword clear. So I'll go ahead and place that in there. Okay. And Torek is handling his side of the lake. Remove the other encounter token from the adventure map and return it to the box. So at this point, I go ahead and return both of these to the boxes. I don't need either one of them anymore. And then I'm going to continue on to adventure 1-14. All right, so 1-14. Before heading forward to the camp, you take a moment to catch your breath. The crescent moon reflects eerily off the glossy black surface of the water. I can choose to rest at this point if I want to, or I can move on to the next location. So right now I'm sitting here right before going into the goblin camp. So at this point, it might be a good opportunity for me to rest and regain some of my fatigue. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. So in order to trigger that, I'm going to go ahead and spend a number of experience points that I want to. I'm going to go ahead and just spend 1, as both of my people only have 2 fatigue. So we'll see how this works. So from here, then each one of my characters is going to roll a die. And so I'm going to go ahead and roll a white die for the Crusader and a red die for the Warrior. Okay, so both of them return that number of fatigue from their fatigue, or that number of cubes from their fatigue spot to the supply, where those would go back. And then you would replenish all of the stats on there. So each of these guys would get all of their cubes back in those stats. And then, let's see, I need 1 there and 1 from the supply down here. Now, the important thing with this, and the reason why you're doing this, is that as you gain cubes in the fatigue, your character might be knocked out if they lose a number of health, as the fatigue kind of counts against your health. And if you have too much fatigue in there, obviously you're not going to potentially be able to roll it all away with those rolls, depending upon how much experience you spend. So in that way, that is the reason why you're doing that. It's not necessarily, now these are going to be pulled right from the supply, and so you might have some left over in the fatigue section. So that is one thing with that. Then you get to refresh all of your stuff from there. Your discard pile gets added back here as well. I think that actually happens at the end of combat. Let me double check that real quick, just so I can make sure that I'm stating that correctly, as this is a rest action. So resting, so each player, okay, we already handled that. Each player fills their attribute roll. Okay, we handled that. Each player chooses a class, or flips their class card over. Each player returns any bonus play tokens from their fatigue box to the play section, which we did not spend any. Each player returns all their cards from their spent. So the discard cards go back into your hand at the end of at the end of your skill check. The spent cards can only go back into your hand during the rest step. And then finally, you're going to flip the token over to its non-rest side. So I cannot rest again until I complete another skill check. All right, and I think that is all that I'm going to do. Obviously with that, I'll return those to the bag. And from here, then I would continue on with my path. So I'm going to go ahead and move into the goblin camp. And at this point, I can go ahead and clear that, as I don't need that book for the moment. And I'm going to be moving on to the next spot. So let's see here. All right, so we are at the goblin camp. Okay, so then I'm just going to work my way down from here. So if there's no XP at this location, I'll read B1. Otherwise, collect the XP from this location. So I'll go ahead and add that. If you have the keyword null, it's going to be B7. If you have the keyword alarm, it's B2. If you have the keyword clear, then you're going to continue reading. I happen to have clear, so I'm going to go ahead and continue reading. And so the light of several small campfires flickers through a chaotic grouping of boar hide tents. Short, long-eared silhouettes move bustily about, pulling up stakes and securing provisions. It seems the goblins are preparing to move, likely to retreat. While they are distracted with their work, you sneak around the perimeter, whittling down their numbers, one by one, and pulling the bodies away into the dark. It is not long, however, before a goblin sentry spies you. She raises a horn to rally her kin. You race forward to silence her. All right, so then we're going to move into combat. This is the first time we've had combat. And so we're going to encounter a goblin, and that's going to be enemy number 22. So let me pull that out. All right, there's 22. And she is also going to have the keyword cornered, or the modifier cornered. So then I'll pull that from here. So cornered. All right. And then this works pretty much the same way. Again, spending the stamina to purchase specific colored dice. And then with this one, it does have the modifier in it. So it says at the start of this skill check or each round of this combat, add a random dice to the dice pool. This does not count against your dice limit. So let's go ahead and handle that real quick. So I get to add a random die. Well, the start of this skill check or each round of combat. So let's handle that after this fact. Okay. So flipping this over to the combat side. Again, let's start off by purchasing dice. So before doing that, let's go over this real quick. So at the beginning of the combat, you're going to place a cube at the start of combat, as most combats are only going to last 3 rounds. So each round that you don't succeed, you're going to move the cube forward and then handle the effect on that cube. So with this one, we're going to be adding fatigue from the supply directly to our character's fatigue sections based on the number underneath it. So if it goes to round 2, then each one of us will gain 1 fatigue. If it goes round 3, then each one of us will gain 2 additional fatigue just from that alone. On top of that, some of the different facings are going to have effects on us as well, depending upon if those are not filled or not. If they're filled, then you won't have to suffer the effects of that. All right, so from there, let's go ahead and get into some purchasing. And what do I want to buy? I'm going to go ahead and do a red cube, or a red die, because I'm going to definitely need that. And let's go ahead and purchase a white as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and spend the 2 from my character there. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and stay there, so I get to draw 1 additional die for my combat limit, which is 3. So let's see what I pull here. And then I get to pull an additional die as part of the cornered ability. And again, that doesn't count against my combat limit. All right, so not too bad. And then I'll go ahead and give these a roll. All right, so 2 1s, a 6 and a 2. So not super helpful here. But let's get into messing with some of this stuff. All right. So I could do trimmer. This one would actually add 2 additional red dice to the thing, which might be good. I do have a reroll, but the reroll isn't super helpful right now. And I definitely need a higher number on that as well here. On the other side, I could do this again, which will let me flip, which could be helpful. I do have the War Lance, which lets me decrease a white by 1, so that could be useful there. That doesn't help me. And Tramp also could work, as I could flip that over, or the Intimidate would also work. still have to decrease it by 1 though. That's the other problem. Surprisingly, I do not have that ability. This one does let me do that though. All right. So, all right. Let's go ahead and use my ability. So I'm going to return 2 to the supply for that one and flip this over. I'm going to switch both of these to 6s. We'll see what happens with that. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and spend the War Lance. This one is going to let me increase or decrease a white by 1. And that goes in my spent section. So I'm going to decrease it by 1, and that will meet the requirements for that one. And then, let's see. What else do we got here? All right, let me see what else we can do here. So I do have this one, lets me decrease a red by 1. That'll drop that to a 5, and that'll take care of that one. And then, let's see. So I can spend 1 more. I think there was one in here. This one lets me convert any dye or any color to either blue or green, and that is a greens that I need. So I think I will do that. So I'm going to go ahead and spend Reckless as well. That lets me convert that red to a green. So I'm going to pull that out, place that in there, and that will complete that combat, as that is all I needed to handle. So then this gets cleared and returned to the bag. All right, so since we completed that, then everything gets returned to the different sections. So I'm going to handle that real quick. And then I'm also going to pick up words. Okay, so the goblin gave me 2 experience for those. I also flip over my rest token, and then I will gain my discarded cards back. All right, and that was a victory. So you silence her before the alarm is raised. You're going to go to B5. So let's go to B5. So you grab hold of the goblin sentry and strike her down before she can sound her horn. With this done, picking off the rest of the camp is easy work. When every last goblin is gone, you set fire to their tents, and something catches your eye in the firelight. You're going to reveal discovery card 95. Oof. 95. Okay. And then you're also going to record the word goblin. All right. And what do we find here? So we have the ancient key. All right. So we have a couple of different items there. And then another fire raises from across the lake. You trust that Torek is making good progress and will meet you at the fortified gate ahead. So from here, then I can use an item if I choose. I can also rest or move to another location. Do I risk moving on, or do I stop here? I think I might be able to push through. Or I could swing around and go to the null camp as well at this point. Well, I think I'm going to push on for now. So I'm going to go ahead and move my way to D. So let's find out what's going on there. So we have the outpost wall. If you have the keyword open, then you're going to move to D2. I do not yet. So if there is no XP at this location, go to D1. Otherwise, collect the XP at this location and continue reading. You approach the fortified outpost as the moon sets, leaving you in utter darkness. Behind you, twin fires burn on either side of the shimmering black lake. You feel your way across the rough wood of the outpost's massive gate, but can find no handle or latch. Yet the gate holds firm. It must be barred from within. Behind this wall, the Dargol are protecting a powerful artifact. Turek Nolan, the halfling, is nowhere in sight. So at this point, I could try to use an item. I can rest or move to another location. So if I want to use an item, I would have to spend the different things, a different stamina requiring based on the item. And I think at the outpost walls, this was where I was supposed to use the blue stone of fireball. So let's go ahead and do that. So in order to use that, each one of my players has to spend a stamina from one of their different things. So I think I will spend one from Constitution and one from Charisma. So I'm going to go ahead and use item number 65. So I'm going to go to 65 here. So you uncork the blue stone fireball at the base of the fortified gate and run for cover. A thunderous explosion tears a wide flaming hole in the wall, giving you a passage through. So from there, then I'm going to record the keyword open. So I'll handle that. Reveal discover card 16 and place 1 experience on it. So 16. Okay. So we have a new location here. So that just slides right on in there, and I place an experience point on there. Then I return card 65 to the Discover deck. So I'll go ahead and handle that real quick. That's pretty good. Okay, 65. All right. And then I can choose to rest or move to another location. Well, I haven't heard anything from Torek yet, so I wonder if he got stuck back at the previous camp. So, do I go back and check on him? Which it looks like he probably cleared it out, so that might be a good choice, as there probably isn't any enemies there. And then at that point, I could potentially rest to get ready for that final location. Or I could move forward and hope for the best. I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and check on that and see what's going on there. So I'm going to make my way back here. And so I'm going to go to the null camp. And that is going to be this one here. So if there's no XP at this location, I'm going to read C1. Otherwise, collect the XP at this location. So I gain this. If you have the keyword goblin, read C5. If you have the keyword alarm, read C2. And if you have the C word clear, continue reading. So I do have goblin and I do have clear. So I think the goblin takes precedent. So let's go ahead and read that. So burn tents are all that remain of the null camp or encampment. Trails in the soil reveal the frantic movement and sudden ends of the 3 dog-pawed creatures. Their bodies are not in evidence, and there are no tracks from Torek's feet and no drag marks to indicate what became of these nulls once the halfling was done with them. If you didn't know better, you would have guessed that the nulls saw a ghost and ran about wildly and then vanished forever from this world. Torek is a more formidable operative than you supposed. In the ashes of a tent, you find something he overlooked. Reveal card 86. So I'm going to get card 86. Still going. All right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool. And what do I find here? So I have the lodestone pendant. All right. Cool. That might be useful. And that is it. So from there, then I have to, where was I? I was over here. So I can either use an item I can rest, or I can move to another location. So at this point, this might be a good opportunity for me to rest before I move back into the outpost interior. So I think I will go ahead and do that. So I think I'm just going to return 1 die again. From there, then I'm going to go ahead and again roll 1 die per character. So white and red. Okay, so I get to return 3 dice from him, or cubes, and 5 from her. She only has 2. And then I get to refill all of these. So there's her stuff. And over to him, he gets 1 there, and 2 there. So his stuff's full, and then I get my spent card back, and I get to refresh her ability, and then the campfire gets flipped over as well. All right, I'll return those to the bag, and that'll take care of that rest. So let's go ahead and move on in there and find out what's going on with this then. So outpost, that's E. Okay, so we are at the outpost interior. So if you have the title Revealer of the Secrets, then I'm going to go to ER or E18. If you have the Rogue's Accomplice, you're going to read E1. If you have the title Aid to Ogre, read E17, and otherwise collect the XP at this location and continue reading. So I get my XP. So you pass through the smoldering hole and enter the Dargle outposts. Its massive wooden walls are solid but roughly constructed. They enclose an open space, empty except for a single chest of white metal and a grayish ogre who stands before it with an iron club. The ogre shouts in a Dargle language. It's gobblerish to you, as if he were making all the sounds but none of the sense of the Norlis common. Between his angry cries, he smashes the metal chest with such force that it shakes the ground around you, but the chest only rings out a remarkably pleasant tune. It remains unbroken, undented, and firmly in place. The enraged orc approaches you, shouting and swinging his club wildly. As you watch his outburst, you catch a glimpse of something moving in the shadows behind him. The Tauric Nolan, blade drawn, carefully approaches the ogre from the other side of the outpost. All right, so then it talks about our faction tracks. So it's going to determine your favor in the different factions, including the King's favor, the Starlit Door favor, and the Dargle favor. So this is going to start being adjusted now. So I have my choice. I can either attack the ogre and go to E2, or I can try to understand what he's saying, which is going to be intelligence and wisdom. My intelligence sucks, and wisdom's not too bad. So I might take a crack at that, because it might be more important to find out what he's saying than necessarily to enter into combat with him right away. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. So that's going to have me going to E3, and it says, as Tora creeps closer to you, you try to understand what the ogre is saying. The Dargle and Nullus common are not completely diverse. 1,000 years ago, when all of Ulus lived in peace, the two languages were a single tongue. But after all of these centuries of separation, it is no simple task for you to comprehend the ogre's angry rants. So I'm going to do a skill check of an interpretation, and it's going to be level 1. All right, so inspection, interpretation. Okay. So this one's going to need white, blue, and a white or a blue. All right, so again, then I can move into purchasing some of that. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the 2 wisdom from him to gain a white. And other than that, I don't have a whole lot of other options. So I'm going to go ahead and spend I'll spend 2 red from him and 1 red from her to pick up another white die. Or that's just 1, and then I'll spend this as my other one. So that's 2. That'll be the 2 that I need for that. And I have no ability to generate a blue, so I'm just going to have to hope for the best on this and pull another die from the bag. And wow, what do you know? It's a blue. That's awesome. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and roll these and see what I get here. All right, so not too bad, actually. I have the 2 that I need right away. And I do have a 3 there, which is fantastic. And then moving over to my characters, I'm going to go ahead and play the Blessed Mace, which again allows me to decrease a red or white die by 2. So that would drop that to a 4. And that's a discard. And then I just need to be able to convert that to a blue at this point, which I don't have the ability to do so with him, but I do have that with my guy here, or with her. She has the Reckless, which lets me change any color to a blue or a green. So I'm going to go ahead and handle that and switch that over to a blue. So it's a blue 4 instead. All right, so that was successful. I will gain 2 experience for that. So experience is gaining, or got a lot of experience going on here. So that'll handle that. And I did complete the skill check, so I get my rests back. And then these are both just discards, so they'll go back into my hands. All right, so where was I? That was down here. So pass. You roughly understand the ogre's meaning. Go to E8. Paying careful attention to the ogre's speech, you can tell that he is angry about the chest and whatever is inside it. He introduces himself as Tog, and he tells you that the Dargle invasion was meant to bring home artifacts like this one at his feet. After all the death and suffering of this war, he has finally reached his mission's end, but he can neither move the chest nor open its lid. As he speaks, Targle sinks into despair. His homeland is gone, the invasion has failed, and where will the Dargle go now? His are the complaints of an invader who killed many of your compatriots, and now is disappointed in his own losses at war. But your efforts to understand him have kept his attention fixed on you, allowing the halfling in black to creep ever closer to the ogre. A moment more, and Tog's life will be over. So from here, I have a difficult choice to make. I can either warn Tog so that he can escape, moving to E9, or I can wait and let Torek do his work. Ooh, oh man, that's a tough call there. So he is responsible for killing some of my compatriots. So he potentially does deserve to. He does and he doesn't. That's a tough call. Ooh, I think I'm going to side with it though. So I'm going to go ahead and let Torek do his work. And so I'm going to go to E10. All right, so the halfling inserts his knife into the back of the ogre's neck, and Torek falls to the ground dead. Nice job distracting him, says Torek. One less ogre to worry about. You examine the scene and find some gold in the ogre's pockets. Gain 4 gold. There's 3 and 4. Okay. And then I reveal title card number 3. Okay. So this is the Rogue's Accomplice. At Black Lake, your mission with Torek Nolan ended with the death of an ogre. This battle will not be forgotten, neither by the halfling nor by the ogre's ghost. Oh boy. Okay, so that was a title that I got for that. And then I was down here, favor markers. All right, so I'm going to increase the king's favor by 1, and I decrease the Dorgle's favor by 1. So if you have both the keywords goblin and alarm, go to E12. If you have both the keywords goblin and clear, go to E13, which is what I have, and I don't have any of those other ones, so let's go to E13. So now that the outpost is calm, Torek relaxes on a tree stump and carves slices of from an apple. You approach the goblin's camp, or your approach to the goblin's camp was impressively quiet. I didn't hear a peep from your side of the lake until there was a whole lot of screaming and dying. Nice work. Continue to E21. All right, going to E21. Torek points to the metal chest with an apple wedge. All that's left for me, he says, is to figure out what is locked inside. Upon closer inspection, you discover a white metal of the chest to be the Dorgolium, an ancient alloy forged to contain objects from other planes. No force will crack it. Its lid must yield some other secret. You find a pear-shaped indentation above the keyhole. Torek notices your interest in the chest. You can return to your regiment now if you like, or you can stay and help me open it. If your entire party is exhausted, mark the death track and read the corresponding entry in the Tome of Encounters. All right, I have not yet. So then I can either choose to use an item, I can rest, or move to another location. Well, I'm going to go ahead and use this item, and I can combine these two, making up one item completely. Or maybe use let me try the key first. I don't know if this lodestone is necessarily going to do any good for me at this point. So I'm going to do E95. As neither one of these costs anything, I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So you insert the ancient key into the chest. It fits the lock but will not turn. There must be some other mechanism at work. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try the lodestone pendant. So the lodestone pendant holds fast to the pear-shaped indentation of the chest. You hear something click within. You give it a kick, but the chest does not open. The keyhole remains empty. All right, so I guess we're going to combine the two. So moving into here, you press the lodestone pendant to the pear-shaped indentation on the chest and insert the ancient key. There's a click of a mechanism within, which allows you to turn the key, and the chest pops open. Go to E16. All right, so as the chest pops open, the earth quakes and the sky crackles with strange purple energy. For a moment, you hear the screech of bats and you smell the briny sea. Torek holds forth a chainmail sack of the same white metal as the chest. Quickly grab the object and place it in here. You reach inside the chest and pull forth a plain glass jar of translucent gray matter. Strange, colorful images pass through the material as if it were displaying the dreams of another world. You place this curiously in Torek's Dorglonium sack. Immediately, earth and sky are still. A fine discovery, Torek says, admiring the jar through the chainmail links. You only I've only seen one other like it. Then he pauses to consider you for a moment. Reveal title card 2. Okay, so I pick up a second title. So this is the Revealer of Secrets. In the Dargle outposts, you unlocked a Dorgrinium chest and took the possession of a jar of translucent material. What secrets does this strange substance hold? All right. If your king's favor is one or higher, go to E19. Otherwise, go to E20. All right, so it is 1 or higher. So E19. Torek smiles and hands you the Dorgolinium sack. Hang on to this, he says, but use it wisely. If you slip the jar out of its sack, even for a moment, you'll unleash a wave of interplanetary power. Reveal rare card 55. So rares 55. Okay. Let's see what we got here. So we have gray matter. So this is a card I can add to either one of my players' hands, and that's going to give them a random die. So that could be really good. Who do I give it to? I think I'm going to give it to the warrior, as it seems like the Crusader has been using some more of his cards for manipulation. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to her. All right, so then Torek pulls several empty Dorgrinium chainmail sacks from his pack and hands them to you. Consider yourself recruited to the cause, he says. These are Dorgrinium vaults hidden all over Nullus, each holding an object of great power. He cannot let them fall into the wrong hands. By the king's orders, we must gather as many as we can, and with haste. From here, then I can rest or move to another location. And that is, I think that's pretty much it at this point. There's not much else I think I need to do. These will probably be returned to the supply, so I'll go ahead and handle that a little bit later. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end there. And I think, let's see, yes, there is ending. If you have instead turned to the final section of the, okay, your mission is complete, leaving you free to explore an area of your leisure. Are there parts of the lake you have not yet visited or items you have not yet found use for? From now on, when a choice indicator gives you the opportunity to move to another location, you may instead turn to the final section of the storybook titled The Ends. So let's go to the ends. So your mission in Black Lake has ended, and Torek Nolan wishes you Godspeed on your return to your regiment. My own mission takes me elsewhere, he tells you, but I have a feeling we will meet again. As you travel back, you have time to collect your thoughts and puzzle over the things you have seen. Which titles did you earn? So then we can Aids the Orc, Rogue's Accomplice, Revealer of Secrets. So with the Rogue's Accomplice, the slick face and limp body of the slain ogre appears in your mind. You have put an end to many Durgal invaders during the Long War, but for some reason this ogre's death left an impression. Of all the Durgal you have killed, he was the only one who ever tried to communicate with you. You find yourself wondering what you might have learned from him if he had lived. With the Revealer of Secrets, you wonder about the power of the jar that was hidden in the Dorgrinium chests. How could such a small object shake the earth and rend the sky? Strange images floated through the material inside it. The jar must be an illusion, or else from another plane. For nothing like these images exists anywhere in Euless. All right, so if you have the keyword Zelik, which I do not, and if you have the keyword Grick, read ending number 2. Upon your return, you find your regiment preparing to march. Orders to move west, a soldier tells you. General Grick is advancing on Bog Root Swamp. You report to the general, who smiles when he sees you. Just in time, he calls. General Grick hands you a letter from King Torin. It seems the king's hometown has been attacked by a giant troll, and he wants you to bring him its head. My duties take me to Bog Root, says Grick. So when you're done with the troll, you'll need to meet Zorik in Sebrick for your next assignment. Grick slugs you in the shoulder to bid you farewell. You head towards the coast. After a 2-day march, you can smell brine in the air and hear the call of the gulls. Soon you will arrive in the halfling town of Jolvik, where you must fetch the head of the troll for your king. If you do not have the title Revealer of Secrets, you read ends 3. I do have Revealer of Secrets. Each player may now advance their character and clean up the adventure and save your characters. So at this point, that will conclude the mission, as I was successful, and then I can move on to mission 2 after I've handled all of that, the different things for that, which my characters will be able to purchase new things and gain things by spending experience points and so on, which I'm not going to go ahead and cover in this video. So I hope you found the video interesting. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this one, and if you're interested in this game, or if you already have it, what your thoughts are on it as well. I love starting a conversation. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video and leave me feedback on that. I do really appreciate it and take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. And until next time, I'll see you later.